Brian, I would imagine that two of the aspects of a financial plan is going to be legacy and cash flow. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, I want to talk about these two areas because one of the areas that we ask about in our questionnaire when we do a financial plan is, what do you want your legacy to look like? I kind of have to chuckle sometimes. I'll have a husband and wife, and the husband will say, well, I want to spend my last dollar the day I die, and the wife, no, I want to leave my kids, you know, houses and money and so forth. So that's between them. But everybody has an idea about what they want to leave behind. And sometimes that, if you haven't done a proper financial plan, you might find that you're saving up for your kids, you know, and not spending any money during your lifetime, and it's affected your life. But had you had a financial plan, you could have seen one of the outputs from the financial plan is an estimate of what your legacy assets are going to be. So we could do a financial plan and then start doing some what-if scenarios. So the first part of what you asked about was the legacy part. We can start doing some what-if scenarios. If you spend X amount and these things happen, how much will you be leaving behind? Is that appropriate? Is that adequate? Is that too much or too little? So that's one thing we want to know. Tied in with that is, how much can I spend in retirement? So a lot of times I'll be doing a plan for someone and I'll get to the end and they've told me maybe, well, we can get by on $50,000 a year. Like, get by on $50,000 a year, but you're worth $5 million, and you know, we do the plan. You actually could spend $200,000 a year. Oh no, we don't want to do that. Like, that's fine. You're going to leave your kids $12 million someday. Well, we don't want that. I'm like, okay, so now we're having this discussion about the balance between knowing how much you can spend in your life, how much cushion you have over what you're spending now, and how that relates to your potential legacy assets someday.
Do you often find that people underestimate how much cash they're going to need in retirement?
No, I find that people actually decide, you know, they've been saving their whole life. They're not spending a lot of money during their life, and they plan on doing that the rest of their life. Something changed along the way. They were very successful financially, and they're worth millions. And they're still living like they did 3 years out of college. I mean, they're not spending any money. And so it's very interesting sometimes when we're doing these plans to see the kind of the light bulbs go on about, you mean I don't have to live on $50,000 a year? No, you don't. I mean, I can take the trip. Yes, you can take the trip and you can fly first class. Oh no, I can never do that. You know, we have these discussions, but so many of my clients are, you know, locked into, gosh, I'm just really conservative with my money, but you have lots of it. So, you know, having the tool of knowing how much excess cash flow you have, what your cushion is in retirement, again, relative to how much you want to leave behind someday to your kids or charities or whatever that is, your legacy plan, it's important to have that balance, at least know the information. So the goal for me is to give them the information and kind of open up their mind if they have extra cushion that they can think differently than they have in the past.
Brian, do you find that sometimes people really have a wrong idea about when they can retire? As you said, they think they don't have enough money, but in reality, they've got more than enough money. They could have retired 10 years ago.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah, that happens a lot. That people, you know, they, like I say, we're savers by heart. The people that are coming to see me generally are savers. They're not spenders. Spenders don't have the assets to come to a financial planner. They've spent them. So I usually get savers by the very nature of that. People that are good with money and are investors and savers and so forth. But again, there comes a time when you can loosen up the purse strings a little bit.
Do you find sometimes that people just never want to retire? I mean, they come to you and they've got this money, but it's like, I'm never going to spend any of this. I'm never going to stop working.
Oh yeah, I have that too. And it's not for me to make any judgments on that. Great, do what makes you happy. But one of the things, one of the stories that I wanted to conclude with here, I remember this client came in and she was just debating about whether she should take this big trip or not. And I said, well, you guys are worth $7 million. You don't spend any of it. She, oh, I know. And the trip was $25,000, I think it was. And she just could not convince, I just can't spend all that money. I said, well, your kids are going to take that trip someday because they're going to inherit this money. You're not going to take the trip, and I'm sure they'll be glad to spend your money someday on the trip that you never took, even though you had all the money, so you could leave extra money over the $7 million to them so they could live the life that you didn't get to live. And she looked at me and go, I don't like that. I said, take the trip and fly first class. She goes, well, I can't do that, you know. So we had those discussions, but yeah, there has to be a paradigm shift when you're in that situation. If you want to accomplish the life you want to have, sometimes it's okay to say, you know, I'm leaving the kids plenty, and you know, have the plan, at least know what that information is. So that's our role, is to at least give them the information. They can choose to do with that what they wish.
Brian, thanks for telling us all about cash flow and legacy.